Chris asks, hello James, I have a platinum female fluffy carrier. If I made it with a full fluffy platinum, will all my pups come out fluffy? No. You would expect to see on average half fluffies and half fluffy carriers. Because remember, every dog has to have, your fluffy carrier only gives out the fluffy gene half the time. The other fluffy, full fluffy, gives out a fluffy gene all the time. So half the dogs get 2 copies, they're full fluffies, half the dogs get 1 fluffy, they're fluffy carriers. And of course, a platinum to a platinum, every dog's a platinum. Mr. Arredondo asks, how long is blood good for after being collected? So when you pull blood, I don't know why you're having to wait on this. Maybe you've got to take it to somebody who's got the machine. But typically, it starts to gel up on you is the problem. And if it gels up, you can kind of stir it back up and reconstitute it and use it that way. I would put a stopper on it because you don't want stuff evaporating. And I've never done a test on this to find out how long. If you kept it in a refrigerator, it'd be a long time. I would think 24 hours. If it's in a covered tube and it's not too hot, I would think that you're going to get 10 to 12 hours before it starts to get completely dried up. If you leave it out with the top on, it's going to coagulate, and you very quickly it's not going to be of any use at all. You'll have to test to find out. Let us know what you find out. Christian Dominique Cortez, do you give probiotics to your Frenchies? Yes, we do. And we sell that at www.mybreedersupply.com. But it's certainly not the only product out there that you can give. Any good quality probiotic is a good thing to give. And we do give that. And we especially give it to pregnant mums. And we give it to any dog that's getting any kind of a tummy upset. It's a very good thing to try as a kind of a, a more of a, I don't want to use the word holistic in the way that it's really intended, but is a more natural solution as opposed to going into harsher medication. So yes, absolutely. Blazing Colors. Platinum covers Merle. Correct. Well, platinum covers Merle because it's a cream. A double cream dog, little e dog, it covers everything up. It covers up everything where the dog looks basically white or cream or fawn, depending on the variation of cream that you've got. So then, can you see white markings on a platinum or any color, or will it also cover pied? Yes. Now I have seen, and I don't know why, but I have seen cream pieds, a dog that is pied but is solid cream, where you do see a bit of variation in color and you can see some patches in it. So I have seen that. But I think the majority of the time you'd expect cream to cover it up completely. And in those situations, you are not going to see anything but white or cream. Freddie Cuba. I got deworm, was going to do it on my pups, and vet said, why give dogs harsh chemicals if you don't know exactly what worms the puppy have? I want to use parental payomate. I'm thinking, he just wants to get money off me. I'm basically asking you, what would you do if it's my pups? Any harm in deworming? Look, here's the situation. All dogs have worms, but it's under control. And because of their I don't know that all dogs have worms, but dogs likely do have some worms. The problem is that puppies don't have any simple way of getting rid of worms yet. So the conventional treatment, including what I do, is that you worm puppies at 2 weeks and 4 weeks with parental payomate or Nemex 2. It's the same thing. And then you continue on with wormings every 2 weeks thereafter. So 6, 8, 12 weeks with fendobendazole or Safeguard or a goat wormer. That's what we do. It works very well. And somebody else has asked somewhere in here, I think, about worming a pregnant dog. So I'm going to cover this at the same time. We also worm mum for 3 days straight. And by the way, let's just talk about the regime on the wormings for the puppies. With parental payomate, Nemex, it's a one-time deal. Do it every 2 weeks. With fendobendazole or Safeguard or the goat wormer, you do that for 3 days straight. And by the way, it's 1 cc for every 5 pounds of weight for the fendobendazole. So what you want to do here is you want to worm mum at 10 days, 9 days, and 8 days. There's your 3 days straight. So basically a week before birth, you've wormed her 3 times. And then you do the same thing a week after she's had puppies. So at day 7, 8, and 9, or 8, 9, and 10, you do another triple worming on mum. And that worked very well to knock out any the nice thing about Safeguard is a pretty broad spectrum type of a deworm. It doesn't get rid of everything, but it treats everything pretty well. And it's also helpful in things like, gone blank, Coccidium and what you use metronidazole for. Giardia, got it out finally. I'm getting old, folks, sorry. And Giardia. It's not as effective as the treatments you'd use directly for those things, but it does have some effect against it. So it's just a generally, I mean, I can tell you this, if I get a sick older dog that's got some diarrhea or stomach problems, I'll give it 3 days of Safeguard immediately. That's not to say that you shouldn't test dogs to find out what really is going on. And to the point that your vet said, these are not very harsh chemicals and they're extremely safe. And I've personally always done this, and I've never ever had a problem that I think was caused by doing a deworming. So I would highly recommend that you do this, and I think the majority of vets would agree with me on this, and so I think your vet's out on a limb on this. So that's my thoughts. Okay. Brian Alicia, have you ever had dogs with acid reflux? If so, what are the things that have helped you? Yeah, so he's talking about, well, let's see what the reply says here. There's a reply here. Let's see what the reply says. Okay, so this is Brit H, comes up with these answers, and they're not all the answers I'd have given, so I'm glad I read it, because I think they're good. Fermentidine, which I don't know what that product is, but it's one thing they're recommending. Slower feeder, that is a good idea. Feed the dog more frequently, less food. Now, I'm going to talk about more why in a moment. Pre-antibiotics. Then it says vets, bez, gas buster. Yes, so let's talk about this. So what's going on here? Well, one of the things that can happen is a dog's chowing down really quickly because it's being fed with its other puppies and it's feeling competitive and it wants to get food in its mouth as quickly as it can. And because of that, food stays in its gullet, it doesn't get dropped down to its stomach properly, and it pukes it out. That's one reason. Another one is the valve at the top of the stomach is not closing properly, and they're getting some gastric juices coming up into their basically their windpipe. And that can cause problems, long-term problems for a dog, and it can also cause a dog to puke. So that's another reason. And there's another thing called megaesophagus. This is a dog that normally would have a windpipe tube that goes to their stomach. There's a nice, straight, kind of uniform cylinder. But instead of that, there's a big bulge on the side of it. And what happens is it gets food in that bulge that does not drain properly down into the stomach. And because of that, the dog can then puke it out. What do you do for that situation? You do surgery. Never had it happen to me, so I don't know what it costs and how effective it is. But that's supposedly the treatment. But the other thing about this is to feed less food more frequently. Don't give it a big meal twice a day. Give it 4 small meals every 6 hours and see if that helps. And then I think the gas buster thing, hey, you can't hurt with that. You know, it could be that it's getting a lot of gas in its stomach and it's causing some burping going on, and because of that it throws the food out. So I think haven't thought of that one before, but I think that's a sensible suggestion too. Stony Carter, do you know anything about CDDY and IVDD? Yes, I mean, I can tell you this, that you know, these are things that you do see in Frenchies. 2 copies of these things that you said my boy has 2 copies and my vet's told me not to breed him. I wouldn't breed a stud dog that has 2 copies of any of these things, because a stud dog passes it on to every single puppy. If it was a female, I'd be more inclined to possibly try it. But I would not be keeping a stud dog for stud purposes for a dog that has 2 copies of anything other than DM. DM, by the way, is completely harmless to Frenchies. But on a Frenchie, I don't want to see 2 copies of anything on a stud dog, that's for sure. Because you know, these stud dogs go on to produce lots and lots and lots of puppies. So there is you know, I think if you look at things like CDDY, it's fairly prevalent in the Frenchie world. And I would venture to guess that maybe 25 or 30% of French Bulldogs have a copy of CDDY. So there's a lot of it out there. So I don't know how much that gets dogs into trouble. I suspect that the testing companies are liking getting your money for doing the testing. And there's more of that going on than anything else. But 2 copies of anything other than DM, I think, is probably a no-no. Gadeli Raffolds, I'm a breeder here in the Philippines. Is it possible to ship semen all the way to the Philippines? It depends on the shipping system you're using. Our system, absolutely. The problem with shipping from the US to the Philippines is it takes a long time. There's lots of small islands, and some of those islands, it can take a day or two past when it gets to the Philippines, to Manila or wherever, to get it to you. So you could have a shipment that's going to take 4 to 5 days to get to you. And you've got to be able to keep the semen cold or chilled for that length of time. And the way that you do it with our system is you put it in a bigger box with a lot more ice. And if you do that, we can successfully get it shipped. It's more expensive because the box is bigger, and shipping to the Philippines is not cheap anyway, but it can be done. If you try to use this one of these just regular, what I call passive systems, these regular Canine Express boxes, you won't get it done. I promise you. It's absolutely going to be a disaster. It's not even worth thinking about. If you want to look into our system, go to www.mybreedersupply.com and then look into buying the shipmate, and you probably want to have a conversation with me about specifically what kind of a box you want to use to make this work. Carolina B, when do you deworm a pregnant dog? I took care of that one in the previous conversation. And last one here, can you do a video on the oxygen concentrator? I was thinking about getting one, but I can't find a review. Yeah, I've got one. I got a couple of things. I got about 3 videos on oxygen concentrators. And if you look under my channel and you put in oxygen concentrator or O2, I think you'll find them. There we go. Thanks for watching. Bye, everybody. For watching the video. I really appreciate people who subscribe to me. It helps me, encourage me to do more of these videos. But do remember, disclaimer here, I am not a vet. I'm not a licensed medical professional. I'm purely a person who's been breeding dogs for the last couple of decades. Any information that you got from this video, use at your own risk. There's nothing implied here, and certainly this should not be used as a substitute for advice from your veterinarian or your medical professional. I hope you enjoyed the video. Come back for more of them. Bye.